That is the opposition parties speaking to the media after meeting the Election Commission, and their demand to the Election Commission is that the VVPAT verification be done before the results are announced, before the counting is completed. But we will hold on to that because keep in mind the Supreme Court of India on Tuesday dismissed a plea seeking 100% verification of voter verified paper audit trail or VVPAT of electronic voting machines. Justice Arun Mishra and Justice M.R. Shah were hearing the petition that was filed by a few technocrats for urgent hearing. The bench at first refused to list the matter on the grounds that a similar matter had already been decided by a bench headed by Chief Justice of India Ranjan Gogoi. When the lawyers pressed for the matter to be heard, Justice Mishra took the matter on board and dismissed it, terming the petition a nuisance. Justice Mishra said that the court cannot entertain similar pleas repeatedly. He said, and I quote him here, "Let the country elect its government," unquote. Earlier, the top court had ordered that the number of electronic voting machines with respect to which VVPAT paper trail is verified be raised from 1 EVM to 5 EVMs per assembly constituency. Many political parties wanted physical verification of VVPAT paper trails for at least 50% of the polling stations. Subsequently, a review petition was dismissed by the Supreme Court. Kartikeya Sharma, a political editor, continues to be with us on this broadcast. Kartikeya, we heard what Ghulam Nabi Azad, the Congress party leader, had to say. That was after meeting the Election Commission of India. They've demanded that the VVPAT verification done before the counting is completed. Do you see the Election Commission giving in to that demand?
You see, before we get into that, if you would have looked into the frame, Arvind Kejriwal was standing there, yes. Aam Aadmi Party's president. Was he distrustful of the EVM machines when his party swept 67 out of 70 seats in Delhi in 2015? Then Derek O'Brien from Trinamool Congress was standing there. So in the previous election conducted during NDA regime, they had more than 70% of the assembly segments under them. They swept. Was there a problem? When Telangana Rashtra Samiti swept elections 6 months back, was there a problem with EVM? Did Congress go to the Election Commission when they swept Pondicherry, Punjab, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh? I think the whole issue is that technical glitches where EVMs have failed on technical reasons or someone has tampered with them in terms of destroying it. Those are the issues which can be dealt on case-to-case basis. Now, what Mr. Azad is demanding from the EC is unfeasible. He is saying that if there is a glitch in an EVM, then the whole segment should be looked into and verified. Now, if you do that, then the election result in India will take more than 15 days or maybe even 20 days.
Right, Kartikeya Sharma making it clear that the demand by the opposition parties, as expressed to the media just moments ago, is not feasible. But this is a larger problem, isn't it, that we've been discussing, Kartikeya, because the Supreme Court of India today also made it clear, let India elect its government. That's the word that came in from the judge.
Absolutely. Not only he said, let India elect the government, the word that Justice Mishra used was nuisance. See, it is not the first time that these issues have gone to the court. Even when Uttarakhand Assembly the whole fiasco took place where the court had to send the monitors to see how the voting takes place. The matter went to the Uttarakhand High Court. So the multiple high courts are seized of these EVM issues. Bottom line here is that there has to be a consensus, a political consensus, that should we go for the ballot, which will require 3 to 4 days, which is open to booth capturing. And now someone needs to also prove that have booth been captured when EVMs are there. In 80s and 70s, India had seen political elections where booth after booths were captured because it's easy to take over a booth and start, stamping ballot. But when it comes to EVM, these matters can be reported immediately that someone has tampered. So there is a difference. Booths can be captured, the people there can be, they can be silenced, and then it can become part of the larger process. But in EVM, you cannot do like this.
Right. And there are 4 constituencies which have come under the radar this time around, hasn't it, Kartikeya? We're talking about Jhansi, we're talking about Ghazipur, we're talking about Domariaganj, and one more constituency, 4 constituencies where there was a problem that the candidates could look at what was happening inside the preparation of the EVM room. There was access to it.
See, the issue of strong room, the issue of room where the political parties can send their representative. These are procedural issues. Now, the larger question which is here is, which you discussed through graphics, is the process of election compromised in the country, or has someone tampered with the EVM software? Now, you yourself said that these are not integrated through a net. These are separate machines. So these are questions integral to our health of democracy. Our issue is larger, and the larger issue is, are we saying that someone in the government has compromised the process of election? I think this is the most dangerous path which opposition parties can tread. Yes, you can look into the problem, the technicalities, the transportation, the glitches when it comes to EVMs. But to say that someone has compromised the entire machinery where a government comes back on illegitimate votes is great disservice to what we have achieved in past 60 years, and that is smooth transition of power.
Right, but Kartikeya, that's a larger attack on the Election Commission by the opposition parties, led by the Congress Party, led by the Congress Party President Rahul Gandhi, about the conduct of the way the elections have been conducted over 7 phases in the campaigning, and those questions over the Election Commission. But in this time around, what we're discussing specifically is the electronic voting machines, and in the past, we're talking about countries which have used it for probably nearly 2 decades and then chose to give up on it. But keep in mind, that was like 2007, 2009 in the Netherlands. Technology has improved drastically since then, Kartikeya, and this particular elections in India have witnessed some great improvements in terms of ensuring the free and fairness by using electronic voting machines.
See, the experience of countries differ to, by their experience, by the issues they have encountered, by the technological challenges they have faced. Now, if EVM was really such an issue, my question is, why aren't these issues taken up when the parties concerned win handsomely? Or elections? Why is Mamata Banerjee not concerned about the votes which she got through EVMs when she swept back to power again? Or why has this issue not come up by ADMK, which swept back to power? So issues only come up when you think that you are about to lose the election. So the bottom line here is that the EVMs have become like any other political issue. But again, I would like to re-emphasize the point that when you discredit the system of election and say that someone in the government has compromised, it is different from saying that we find that there is a problem which is technological in nature or procedural in nature, and it needs to be resolved.
But Kartikeya, as they say, history is written by the winners and complaints are invariably made by the losers, and that is the reason why after an election it's always the losing parties that talk about whether the electronic voting machine has been fair in handing them that defeat. But with this latest development, with about 48 hours to go, really, Kartikeya, for the final results to be out, do you think the debate on the electronic voting machine is more or less heading towards a point where it will all depend upon the results? Because the way the results go are based on the party's own calculations. That will determine how they react to those numbers.
I think, the question should be, in case these results are wrong like Australian exit polls, or if these exit polls are wrong like the way the polls completely went haywire in 2004, when people thought that Atal Bihari Vajpayee is going to come back to power, but then, the Congress Party, CPN and DMK swept, will then the opposition say that, there should be an EVM recount? Will then they say that in case of a fractured parliament that they should be, look into the EVM machines again? That's where the catch is. Just because you're on the losing side doesn't mean that you discredit the process.
Just because you're on the losing side doesn't mean you discredit the process, Kartikeya. That applies to many more things than elections. But what do you think is going to happen from here on? Because you do see the fact that the Congress and the opposition parties, as you said, there's Arvind Kejriwal in that meeting, Ghulam Nabi Azad in that meeting. They've made it clear that they want this particular demand satisfied by the Election Commission. And when the Election Commission, as you've been telling us, is going to refuse that demand of completing VVPAT verification before the counting is done, what's going to happen then? Do you see the Congress Party and other opposition parties stepping it up?
If you're asking me as to what is the strategy of the opposition, my sources tell me that they decided, in fact, the day the exit poll came out, they decided that the VVPAT and EVM should become an issue. This happened the day the results were out by 7:30 p.m. And I know it by hand. And secondly, to say that this will change, I don't think so. These are political decisions, and they don't change like that. An election commission is a constitutional statutory body. You cannot interfere in the process. And least of all, Congress should not complain. When Session introduced reforms in the Indian electoral system, what we witnessed was that the powers of the EC were diluted by adding 2 members, and it was done by Congress Party. And one of the election commissioner went on to become the Congress Party MP and served as a MOS sport in UPA 1.
Karthik Sharma, our political editor, joining us with that perspective as we continue to bring you the latest on India's electronic voting machine saga. Now, after lauding the Election Commission, former President of India, Pranab Mukherjee, has done a U-turn today in which he has said that the election and the conduct of free and fair elections is a must, and this time around he is not backing the election.